Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our third and final episode on our niche program, Chat. My name is Tando Shabalala, the college head boy, and it gives me great pleasure to be able to welcome you to our live chat this evening. Today I'm joined by Mr. Quinn, the head of our prep. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Tando. Good to be here.
Only a pleasure, sir. It's lovely to have you. For those of you who've watched over the course of the last 3 weeks, we've essentially spoken to two of our various schools and discussed how the niche program has managed to manifest itself within the two schools. In the first week I spoke with Mrs. McKinnon, and she spoke to how the niche program has managed to find its way in the lives of our JP boys. And then last week my colleague Tashil Mystery spoke to a few college boys, and their discussion was centered around how the niche program has managed to find its way in the college. Albeit the two conversations and the two discussions were rather different. There was definitely a stark contrast in terms of the niches that were provided at both the college and the JP level. However, the essence of the niche program remained intact, in that it was there to make sure that boys are actually actively doing something else other than the controversial science, biophysics. Mr. Quinn, it's lovely to actually have you, and today you'll be discussing how the niche program's managed to find its way within the prep school. But before we actually get there, I just want to know, what do you believe the key objective of the niche program is within the prep school?
Yeah, thanks very much, Tando. I think so. The niche program nestles well in terms of I think the St. Benedict's academic philosophy, which is to try and drive an active curriculum, which is a curriculum of authentic, collaborative inquiry, trying to provide authentic opportunities for learning rather than being stuck into the sort of more traditional format of just simply covering a syllabus. And so offering a niche program is all about trying to provide boys with an opportunity to find their unique passion, to explore themselves in terms of what they like and what they don't like, beyond just the limitations, I think, of the traditional curriculum. So trying to break down the silos of academic subjects, and then providing them with new opportunities to relate to one another, new opportunities to discover their own interests, and then new opportunities to just try and extend their own knowledge base.
It's lovely. And then when and how often does the niche program actually take place within the prep?
So I can tell you now that the boys would far prefer to have the niche program happen every day. That was what I was told a couple of days ago while talking to some of our grade 4 and 5 boys. But the niche program at this point takes place once a week. It takes place for just over an hour, and it happens to be integrated into the academic program. So it doesn't happen after school or before school. I think it just provides the boys with a moment just to pause and to break free from what it is that they may be doing within an academic context, and then group together and get together to follow and find their niche.
It's beautiful. Now, Mr. Quinn, the next question is rather challenging, especially because Mrs. McKinnon, obviously with her session, she listed all the niches that she actually offered at JP level, and she actually had a few props with her. So my next question to you, sir, is what niches do you offer boys at prep level?
Perfect. Well, I'm counting on a little bit of graphics to counter the props, but I can count that we offer just over 25 different niches to the boys. There are a number of niches. I'm going to list them, and I don't think necessarily list all of them, but I'll try my best. There's a niche called the Bennies Big Build. We look at photography, puzzles and Lego building, some old school board games, a niche called Color Splash and Doodling, another niche called Virtuality Travel, Robotics and Coding is offered. Then we have a DIY niche belonging to a team of boys. We look at offering a cappella, creative writing, puzzles and problem solving. We've got a gardening niche, which is very popular. And then there's craft and mosaic work. We also have, also popular, a charity work and outreach niche, and of course many others as well. But I think I've been able to highlight some of the ones that are fresh on my mind.
Now, you spoke about the gardening niche. That for me sort of buzzed in my head. What does the gardening niche entail? What jobs do the boys actually
Perfect. So the gardening niche allows the boys to start from scratch. So they're looking at obviously, planting their own veggie patches and that sort of thing. But they also have the opportunity of just having a look at how to generally maintain gardens. And we collaborate with our state staff as well. So we have a look at what we do to keep the beautiful gardens that we have at St. Benedict's intact, and to try and learn a little bit more about that. At the same time, we popped across the road to the nursery and met with some of the owners there, and the boys were taken on a tour and given some information around plants and some learnings from our local community as well.
That's brilliant. So all I'm getting is that these niche lessons and these niche periods aren't necessarily activities that boys are just doing with a teacher who isn't experienced on. For instance, they're able to actually go out there and speak to trained professionals within the field. So, okay, that's brilliant. That's
Absolutely, and I think part and parcel of its success now, and perhaps in terms of its future sustainability, is to reach out to our community of parents and have a look at the expertise amongst parents and invite them in as guest speakers, or to collaborate with boys and teachers as well, so that expertise are being brought into the school, and the community are doing their bit that way, which has made things a whole lot more interesting as well, and again collaborative.
Sure. Now, sir, do you have a particularly favorite niche that you basically that tugs at your heartstrings?
I think I need to be careful because I run a niche, so it would be a bit of a bias.
Yeah.
At the moment, I have a group of boys who work on 3D puzzles, and they've put their pocket money together and they collaborate on Lego and all sorts of things. So I think they enjoy that. It's a time of mindfulness and kind of zoning out and really just enjoying building and making. So that's mine, and I really enjoy that. But we've got another one which is very interesting, and I wasn't so sure about it when it first started. It's called Tech Deck. And I saw these miniature little skateboards, and I thought, what are we going to do here? Yeah. And one of our teachers said, no, this is going to work and I'm going to do it. So I said, well, off you go. And it's been quite amazing because it's very popular amongst the boys. And they've ended up designing and building their own little miniature skateboard ramps. So there's a whole design and tech sort of element to it. And it's been brilliant just to see the boys make use of the spaces outside of the classroom to do this. And it's a very popular niche. So I suppose that's a little bit of my favourite as well.
Well, that's brilliant. And then how do you think such a program will be to the benefit of a particular boy?
I think it's yet to be seen, but I think that the aim is we get bogged down, I think, by a curriculum, and we get bogged down by the stress and expectation of traditional schooling. You've got a syllabus to get through, you're going to write an exam at the end of matric, then this is going to happen, and it's all sort of this automaticity that one needs to run through. And I think that a niche program allows us just to perhaps pause a little bit, to become a little bit more mindful of some of the other opportunities that are available to boys as well. I think that there's nothing worse than a boy or a girl getting to the end of matric and just not knowing what to do from there.
Yeah.
And perhaps just to delve a little bit deeper and to offer opportunities beyond the curriculum to allow for a little bit more self-discovery may just help that process along the way. So by the time you've gotten to matric and you've experienced a variety of subjects, you've also experienced a whole lot of niche opportunities where perhaps you've just tapped into an interest or a skill that you haven't or wouldn't have ordinarily. And I think that's there's a lot of liberation in terms of that, in terms of being able to express yourself more comfortably within that sort of setting. I think also, we're emerging from a pandemic where we've gotten used to being isolated, and I think potentially we've forgotten how to play, we've forgotten how to have a conversation, we've forgotten to just sit and listen to one another, to talk properly to one another, and to interact face to face with one another. The niche program isn't just a grade specific program. The grades come together, the boys come together, and they co-create together. And I think that therein is a lesson.
Yeah.
Therein is something to be taken forward, and that is that cooperative work and collaborative work across a multitude of grades is really important, so that we can learn how to talk again to one another face to face, and that we can learn to have those conversations again.
That's brilliant. And then my next question is, St. Benedict speaks of building the holistic boy, and enabling him and giving him the tools to move further on in the world. How do you think the introduction of the niche program lends itself to that?
So I think it's been an interesting journey to, a lot of schools talk to holistic education, and I think to a certain extent we limit ourselves in terms of its definition.
Yeah.
We've always thought of holistic education of being, you're exposed to sport, and you're exposed to academics, and you're exposed to some cultural arts, and you grow spiritually as well through your school. But is that really a holistic education? And have we really done, or have we really defined holistic education properly through that? Maybe, maybe not. And I think that it just creates another dimension to become a more fulfilled individual, which is, I think, essentially what a holistic education is trying to offer.
No, I completely agree with you. And then you've spoken about all these niches, but I want to know, how does the niche program affect the staff members that actually offer these niches? Because I assume at prep level as well, the niches are offered by the staff members, and they basically teach the boys during the niche period.
So I think it's quite remarkable in terms of what staff have been able to do.
Yeah.
Where you try and sell another new idea, and it's all about stretch, and it's all about stretching staff. And I think teachers across the country, across the globe, have been stretched in ways that they never would have imagined, given, of course, the impact of COVID-19. Now we're asking them to do even more. But I think that the huge gain, and I think in terms of what staff have been able to do, is to tap into the relational dimension in teaching, which I think is so, so important in terms of being able to find something that they're passionate about, something that they believe would work with a group of boys, meeting the group of boys and using that as a conduit in terms of developing or nurturing and developing relationships with boys on a completely different level, in a completely new context, so that boys perhaps have another champion in their lives over and above just their subject teacher or their class teacher or whatever it might be. And it's also good, I think it's good for teachers to be vulnerable enough to also disclose interests that they enjoy. So suddenly, it's wonderful. You've got, for instance, the tech deck niche is the head of Afrikaans, who one would never have imagined flicking skateboards up and down and around little skateboard ramps. And I think that's been good. I think it's been good for relationship building, and again, role modeling as well for boys.
I definitely agree. I think for next term, the niche I've chosen is genetics, and albeit I'm a bio student, I know Mrs. Zajac is exceptionally passionate about genetics as a whole, and knowing that I'm going into the niche program with a teacher that's equally as passionate for me, it creates this environment where already I feel welcome within the niche, and I'm excited for it because she's as excited as I am, and she's able to answer any questions that I may have that almost separate themselves from our actual curriculum.
Oh, brilliant. So aren't we supposed to, as teachers, we're supposed to be inspiring curiosity and creating those opportunities, and if we're not doing that, then what are we doing? I think curiosity and motivation and wanting to inquire further is vital, and we're not going to do that through the simplicities of just delivering a curriculum day in and day out. And I think that this just creates just another layer to a differentiated curriculum.
I do agree. I do think that textbooks don't lend themselves towards creative thinking. It's actually quite limited. So it's exceptional that St. Benedict's has actually introduced such a program, and thank you, sir, for chatting with me today, and I really, really appreciate it, and I hope you as the parents have enjoyed this chat, but I want to ask one more thing, please forgive me. I just want to ask, in terms of niches and sport is concerned, are there any sporting niches, or is it just cultural orientated, or boys actually getting a bit of their sport in the niche program, through the niche period?
So it's a good question. As the niche program exists in the prep, there is no sport in terms of what we offer. Some of the boys are involved in a violin ensemble. Some of them are involved in orchestra during niche time.
Yeah.
The prep school's got a production coming up, so some drama and some more specialised dramatics will take place during the course of a niche program. It just sort of lends itself to that. Some of the thinking, though, in the future is to allow for specific skills training to take place during the niche. But the niche is not necessarily designed, I don't believe, to service any one pillar. I think it's to service the needs of boys and to service the needs of staff and to service the needs of whatever season we're in as it happens. So there are some thoughts around. I mean, I've got cricket coaches also telling me that they'd love to have a spin bowling niche or a
Yeah.
a good batting niche. Well, we're open to it, and I think if we can be strategic and calculated and well planned around it, it's certainly something that we would be happy to integrate. But it's in its infancy, but it's developing as we go, and it seems to be a really, really popular uptake in terms of the boys as well.
And then in terms of niches, are boys allowed to change over? How does it work in terms of boys wanting to change over? I think we have a few questions that have just come through, but we'll answer those after. So are there any boys that are able to change over, or is it I've chosen a niche and that's my niche for the year? How does that work?
Again, these are questions that we've also had to deal with, I think, as things have unfolded.
Yeah.
We didn't necessarily, and I think purposefully so, we didn't have a hard and fast idea of this is how it will work and this is how it won't work, because I think the minute you start doing that, I think we need boundaries, but I think you've got to be very careful that you don't limit yourself as well. There are some niches that are year long, and boys are allowed to stay committed to a niche for the year, but there are some niches that automatically rotate on a termly basis. So at the very least, by the end of term 1, you're then going to go off onto a second niche in term 2 and a third in term 3. So boys are given a whole spread of choices right at the beginning of the year, and they end up making choice 1, choice 2 and choice 3, and we then try and accommodate them as best we can. So those boys who are kind of currently on their second choice of niche now might very well find themselves doing their first choice niche in term 2, so that we're including all the options throughout the course of the year.
Yeah. And so we got a question from one of our parents at home, and funny enough, with this question, I quite often refer to the prep school as the doorway, because it's almost in between. So boys from the JP will have to almost walk through this particular doorway, i.e. the prep school,
Yes.
to make their way through to the college, and then boys similarly in the college would have had to come through this doorway, i.e. the prep school, to make it to college level. And one of our parents has actually asked the question if her son is actually able to continue his niche into prep from the JP.
Yeah. So again, in terms of the way in which we've tried to design niches, and what we are looking at now is trying to find that thread that seems to be running from grade 0 all the way up to grade 12, and not necessarily copy niche for niche from the foundation phase into the intermediate phase, but just to find the commonalities of thread. So for instance, grade 0 to 3 will be busy with a woodwork niche, for instance. Yeah. That woodwork niche then may develop into the Bennies Big Build, where you might not be doing necessarily woodwork, but you will be designing instruments that are quite similar to what you would have been doing. So I think that there might just be a natural development, niche on niche, section on section. And I think what we would like to do is try and find some commonalities that run through the school. But I think you've got to be careful. Staff have been really selective around what it is that they want to do, because it's their passion and it's their know-how. Yes, we want teachers to be the jack of all trades, but at the same time, you want somebody who's passionate and knowledgeable about what it is that they're offering. And so I think we've got to be very, very careful around not boxing people too much. So I think it's about trying to just find the commonality of thread to run through. So yes, to a certain extent, they're able to develop that niche a little bit further as they go throughout the school.
And have you heard back from any of the boys in regards to what the niche program's done for them in their lives? Has there been any communication from them or their parents maybe?
I think it's potentially a little too early. There's no doubt that boys get very excited when it's niche time.
Yeah.
I sat with the grade 4s and 5s and just had a general chat with them yesterday, and one of the boys said to me, can we just do niche every day? And then also to just try and provide them with some form of agency as well, to say to them, what is working, what isn't working. And they come up with some really good ideas. So they want to have, a master chef, and they want to, one of them suggested doing claymation, which is just that's a brilliant idea, and something that we may add to the sort of arsenal of niches that we've been able to develop. And I think that's what we need to be doing. We need to continue to have conversations with boys and allowing them that sense of agency to mold the niche program as it goes. And I think that's what this is all about. It's about providing young boys to have a form of agency within themselves to determine their futures by making certain decisions and certain choices. So suddenly they're confronted with these choices. Here's an array of choices. Now you get to decide what you want to do. Versus you have to go there and you're going to sit there and this is what's going to happen, etc., etc., etc. We're actually going to give you some options, and then we're going to ask you to review, and then we're going to ask you to give us some new ideas and how do we fix what's broken, and how do we add to it, and how do we build it, because we're not done yet. We're just getting started.
So it's quite collaborative. So it's not necessarily set in stone. Boys do have a say, and I do think that's quite important, because quite often schools will introduce such programs, but they won't necessarily listen to the opinions of the students who they're offering these niches to. So for instance, they'll lay out this program and it will be quite rigid still. It will necessarily follow suit with what educational parameters have done, and that's just practice this rigid sort of structure, and not enabling boys to actually think outside of the box.
Totally.
Yeah, but you're able to actually have these conversations with boys. And are there any more questions from anyone at home? No. Okay, and with that, Mr. Quinn, it's been lovely having a conversation with you, and I do hope that our viewers at home have enjoyed this series, and I do hope to do more series in the future where we discuss and unpack more elements of our beautiful school, because I do think that we do a lot of unique things at the school that parents don't necessarily know about. They've heard of them, but they don't necessarily know, and I do think there's a difference between hearing about something and knowing about something. And I do hope that after this niche program sort of session, that our parents have actually managed to grasp more about and learn more about what this niche program is, and this differentiated learning approach that St. Benedict's has decided to take. So thank you so much, Mr. Quinn, and thank you so much to everyone who's worked behind the scenes tirelessly to organize this. And I wish you all the best, and thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.